Welcome to Live at Lunch. You're with Vivian Evans, and today's session is about effectively engaging your audience in the virtual webinar room. Tips for facilitators. So fantastic to have you here, and for anyone, a shout out to you watching the recording. So the topics we're going to cover today are before you begin, warm-ups and state changes, polls, questions and feedback, because that's a way you can get people involved. One of the many ways, and if and when to engage participants in voice. So before you begin, what are some ways that you can engage your audience? So even before you start your live online session or meeting. And so you can share those in the text chat box, or if you're watching the recording, you might ponder some yourself. And we might try and do some follow-up discussion in our Connect, Create, Collaborate Facebook group so that we can get some more ideas on this, because I think there's a lot of potential. And as I always say, I've been a teacher for over 30 years. You learn just as much from your students as your students learn from you. So it's really great to share and collaborate with ideas. So some of the ones that you could have before you begin are things like sending out an email, asking for a task. And in fact, I did three today. And welcome, Marie. And I hope you're seeing the screen well there.
Yes, I am, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I can hear you perfectly.
Awesome.
It's a really good idea to engage your audience even before you start. So can you think of any ways of how you could do that with engaging? Say you're doing a presentation, or you might even have a meeting that you're hosting in a virtual webinar. What could be some ways? You can either type in the text chat, or you're free to use the microphone. I've actually did a little bit of that today, if you got my message from an hour ago. Sorry,
asking for questions, if that was appropriate.
Yes, so asking for questions. Yeah. So I actually had a question, what would be the theme or the presentation that you might that you might present about? So have you got, Pauline and Marie, have you got any topic that you would consider presenting in the future if you were to do a webinar? Perhaps you already do. Have you got a theme or a topic?
Yeah, it's Marie. I haven't done a webinar, but I have done a lot of face-to-face training, and I haven't got it developed as yet, but it's in the back of my head because I've got two part-time jobs at the moment. It's about
juggling.
Communication skills, because I just see in all areas communication just seems to be pretty gruesome. And so, yeah, that's what I'm considering as a training. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so I was curious as to what people might be presenting about, because then that can influence, I might be able to come up with some ideas as we're chatting as well. So Pauline, what about you? Have you got something would be more, what sort of topic or theme do you think would be more for you? I'm guessing meetings, but maybe there's some other ways. So Camilla, I'm thinking you would be being tech savvy. One of your topics that you might present of, I know, is potentially singing.
Yes, it's not going to be tech savvy. It's taken me 10 minutes to get on today.
Oh, look, it can do.
Look, and I think that's the thing with me is if I can get through and just work out how I manage this, because when I obviously do my singing lessons face-to-face, it's totally different than doing them online. So that's why I really would like to, take my singing lessons online as part of, Full Bloom and the Capture Your Creative Weekend, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think my blockage is I just need more prep time before I get online to make sure that I'm there on time.
Last week,
about singing. It's singing.
We did recently a session on tips for participants. It was funny, I couldn't get that out. And so that gives some really good tips that you can share in terms of coming in early, and there's quite a few other bits about clearing distractions. And so one of the things that I, suggested so I sent a broadcast out an hour before the session. If you were training and saying doing something from week to week, you might have a PowerPoint that you want to get. You might want something to consider a topic before they come in, so they're not thinking on the hop. Okay, so I only sent it an hour before. You may not have even picked it up an hour before.
No, because my computer had an absolute meltdown this morning.
Oh, yes, and I've got, another one that's wanting updates and that sort of thing. So
yes.
It's good to get in that bit earlier. So, so it can be, before you begin, you can be really engaging your participants. For communication, for Marie, it might be, you might be asking them something beforehand to reflect on or to do. And by the way, I've got some controls. I did mute you before, Marie. I don't know if you noticed. I have controls, and that's what you have controls of as well.
And I've managed to get the screen down. Hello, Camilla and Pauline. What I was thinking just while you were talking was about, I think I would maybe ask the question up front, what sort of communication are you most interested in learning more about or gaining more skills in? Is it face-to-face? Is it phone? Is it, in writing, that sort of thing? Is it presentations?
Yes. So then you're really focusing on what the participant wants to engage with. Yeah, so actually gauging them and polling them even beforehand, so you're getting some input as to what you want it to be about. Yeah. Yeah, terrific. Another thing I sent out was a little document that you could print off and stick up on your door to help clear distractions. And sometimes I slip up on that. It's really useful. And I've emailed that out with our broadcast, and it's really useful to actually put the end time that you're planning to finish. Because if someone's keen to see you, they might go, well, I'm going to hang here, and then you're getting distracted. So if they go, oh, okay, 1 o'clock. And I mean, of course, it's different depending on where you are. It could be that you're in the working space or, your studies connection space with toddlers. You haven't got much control of that. So, and it depends. So, but you could tell your colleagues, and as I mentioned in the presentation for tips, I've heard of one person who worked in an open office and they were trying to engage in learning, and I'm talking to you about a facilitator helping your learners. They actually put in police tape around their desk as a physical barrier so that because people would still come and talk even though they had the headphones and they were obviously focused in on an activity. People and colleagues.
When I worked in an open office, I had I think it was a red, like one of those squidgy balls. And so I said to my staff, if that is sitting up on the top of the divider, do not come near me. And sometimes I'd forget just needed to concentrate on things that might not have been engaging with someone online, but, writing a funding submission or something.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd forget to take it down, which was very convenient because then I'd be left alone all day.
Awesome. Yeah, look, and focus, that's another thing that deep work, that's a really great way to have that. In an open office, that's really, really difficult. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so there are quite a few ways that you can engage your audience. You could even have them print off a PowerPoint with notes that they can write beforehand. So it depends on what you're doing. I haven't done that at this point, but I do that as a participant in another course that I do. So there's, different ways that you can engage. You can have them do an activity. You can even have them that they got to, log in early, but lots of different ways that you can engage them, get them thinking about what you're going to be presenting. And I mentioned just before most of you came online that I might enlarge this conversation in with my Facebook group, Connect, Create, Collaborate, to see if we can come up with some more, because as I know, being a teacher for 30 years, you learn from your participants just as much, as they learn from you. So I love the collaborative space. All right, let me see. I'm on. Oh, yes, I did it there. Okay, we've mentioned that. Help your participants clear potential distractions. I'll talk more about that in the other session that for participants that you can watch, but it's things like turning your phone off and stuff like that you can control. So that can be of help. Warm-ups. Some great ways to warm up participants and calm them down, and depending on what you are doing, you might have a communication style warm up. It could be a brainstorm, it could be singing, you know, getting your voice la 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 la. I'm not sure, Camilla's the expert on that one. But what I have is a collection, and I've shared these both in the Rural Woman and through previous mail outs, is that you can do some whole lot of stretch exercises. And so you can use those in your webinars if you want to. So I've got that as a resource, and we might try this one. And so a warm-up can be, you know, something that's energising, but also something that's really focusing. So, but I like to do this one because it's really good. We spend so much time in front of the computer that it's a nice way to actually do some stretch exercises in a different way. So this one, and don't do it if it hurts. You know your own body limitations, so you might just do something quite different. If you've got an injury to your wrist, don't do it. But we're going to place your palms together, and you can just sit wherever you are, and so it's at your neck, and then bring it down so that it's further down, you know, round about. You can see the diagram there, so almost to your waist. Keeping your palms together with full contact. Now we're going to hold that. 5 elephants, 4 elephants, 3 elephants, 2. Right. Okay, let's shake it out. Don't know if you feel a stretch with that. I do a bit. We'll do it one more time. I know it says for 3. So back and then down. So it's level. 4 elephants, 3 elephants, 2 elephants, 1. It's the elephant in the room. Okay. Oh, I've got a naughty computer. I've tried to divert that 3 times this morning. Okay. Now, with relaxing, we can often, as I mentioned, we can spend too much time. Now, these sorts of activities, you can use them and you can have your own, you can create your own that you can share. You can do them at the start for a warm-up. You can do them in the midst of it, so then it can be a state changer, so you can relax and do that. So, and you can use it at any time, so it's a great resource. State changes. Now, they add energy or peace to the room, and they can make your session dynamic. We don't want death by PowerPoint. What's great about Zoom and with other, you know, potential rooms is we've got video, we can do the webcam, we can see the presentations, we can change things around. So what are some ideas that you think, can you share in the text chat, what are some ideas you think that might change the energy or the pace of the presentation or the activity so that you've got participants engaging in something a bit different? So what could be a potential state changer? I'll give you a little bit of time to think.
It's Marie. I haven't done any online ones, but in person, I used to do training for staff in medication handling for working with people with disability. So I used to do this exercise where I handed out a scenario. Everyone was in pairs. One was the staff member, and I had Webster packs made up with lollies in them, pretending to be medication. And the scenario was a client. It might be someone who rocked backwards and forwards all the time. And so it really just broke. Some people were very nervous about the medication, so it broke the tension. It was fun, but it was a serious exercise as well. And then I would walk around the room, so people would move around a bit. There'd be, and I'd pick somebody for one of the hardest ones who was quite outgoing anyway. And and then everyone would feed back how they did it, how they found it. And because they didn't always know each other. So then sometimes I'd do that before morning tea if they were a very lifeless group, not interacting much. And then it would just change the dynamic and the rapport.
That's fantastic. And I'm just thinking about how we could adapt that to being online. So there's a few ways you could actually get, in some virtual rooms, there's breakout rooms. And so you can actually send your participants off And that used to always scare me when it took me a bit of practice to do that. And then have people in breakout rooms, and then the host could skip from one to the other so they could have their individual sessions.
Oh, okay.
Not aware of it here in this particular space for Zoom, but that's, you know, that, so every room's different and it comes with a different price. So, you know, you've got different capacities, but it could be that you send some people off and brainstorm without talking, but they could text chat and have a scenario, say in a Google document. You can send people individually text messages. So there's a drop where we send our text chat. There's to everyone is what the default is, but you could drop down and say, you know, tag 2 people, so we could have Camilla and Pauline off somewhere, and Marie and myself up somewhere. So you could do it that they read the scenario and they type. There could be, you know, certainly there would be capacity to do something and stretch out like that. I just haven't tried it with this room. Okay, now I'm just going to read some of the what we've got here. So Pauline suggested you ask for feedback on a particular topic. So we've got engagement just by you talking, by you typing. I mean, it's not just sitting and, you know, and listening as to what's going on. Camilla's got in my singing sessions, I start with a series of fun vocal activities to engage everyone. Name top 5 favourite songs. The memory associated with them. Get everyone talking or chatting online. Cool. That's a great one. And it does sound like a lot of fun, I agree, Pauline. Yeah, so great. So there are different ways that you can connect and change. Another possibility is if you look down on your, you've got participants, I think. Let me have a look at my other escape up here. Let's see, I'm going to stop my sharing on the screen. I'm on two computers, so you can see me on the head and on the side. So participants, you have got the capacity to raise your hand. So if you look at down the bottom of the bar, there's a toolbar, you've got participants, and it is possible to raise your hand. If you can find your raise hand, please do so. Let's see how many people can. So Camilla's got it. And if you need more description and explanation, okay, Pauline has. So it's going down. Marie, yes?
Yeah, I'm not finding it.
You're not finding it. So when you hover your mouse down near the bottom of the room, can you see a taskbar?
Yes.
Yeah. And you will see participants.
Right, participants, yeah.
Yeah. And then from participants, you'll see a list of everyone's name in the room, and you will see a button on the right underneath the list that says raise hand.
Oh, okay. I'm not...
You're not seeing that? So you're not seeing a box with a list? Tell me what you see.
Just one sec.
Yeah.
No, I'm seeing the participants, and it says 5, but I'm not seeing anything else.
So you're not seeing...
Up here, right.
Oh, it's up higher, is it?
Wrong area. I found it. Sorry, I'm a bit slow today, ladies.
No. It's because devices are different. And so what I'm explaining to you can be different. And we have participants I've had, like Pauline was just saying, she's come on a computer today. She normally uses her iPad. The iPad has different ways to see it. So it's a bit tricky as a presenter when you don't know what everyone's seeing. So
mine was top right. I was looking at it down the bottom. It says participants, but yeah, I'm with the program now. So there's mute me.
Okay, cool. So, and I have controls to actually mute you. I've got a list, and I have the potential. I can even change people to be hosts. So that could be fun, couldn't it? That'd be another state changer. Have someone as a host. And another way that I've barely engaged in, and look, it's always fun to step outside the box with, I'm going to go with share screen, and I'm going to bring up a whiteboard. All right. Now, can I get everyone to type on it? I don't think so. let me see, I can do squares. Now, let me see if I can manage the participants as well. That didn't work so well. I really want to play with this and explore. But there is a way with the whiteboard that I think that we can have different ways of people doing things. Let me see, I've got mute more.
I did see a while ago Zoom having some little free sessions on all the bits and bobs.
Yes.
I didn't read any, I just saw the email.
Yeah. So that's certainly a way to, there are lots of different ways. I haven't fully extendedly used the whole thing, and I think what's really handy as a host and who wants to do it is to actually explore and engage and find a partner, because what you see and I've got 2 computers going at the moment, so that's another way. So you can be the participant, but if you can play and engage with someone, you're really going to, and you can do it slowly too. So we can still do state changes that are in a safer space, so really shooting, like when I was doing it where we were splitting off into groups with that other virtual room, that took a lot of confidence and practice and exploring and having someone who could work, you could work with. So it's really good to play around with that. Yeah.
I had a job interview on Zoom a while ago, and so I set up a Zoom and then I sent a link to my husband in another room.
Yes.
So, and then changed positions with his computers so I could see, what he was seeing. And he's going, look up, I can see up your nose. No, look up.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You could actually have, the computer lifted up, and it's what background and stuff like that. All right. There's so many things to share with this. Okay, I'm just going to get back. I need to share my screen again on the other computer. What have we done? We've done before you begin, we've done the warm-ups and state changes, polls and questions. I'm actually, we've done our lovely wrist stretch. We've talked a little bit about that. Now, polls and questions, I'm actually going to do a whole focus next week on this for Live at Lunch, because there's quite a broad range of ways that you can engage with that. And as we're getting really close to the end of the time, I think perhaps we'll leave it for then so that I can really get engaged in this. Lots of lovely free tools is what we're going to explore, because I think it's handy. You can always up those tools and purchase some more, but I think it's handy if we spend some time doing that. One of the ways that I thought we could vote is on doing another little stretch. And I did this last week on our live session where we actually chose which way we wanted to wind up the session. So now you can vote in the text chat. So I want you to actually type either A, B, C or D. We've actually done B. So maybe A, C or D. Which one would you like? Oh, we've got 2 for A, so it's already majority rules. Okay, so we're going to look at eyes. Lovely. Okay, so, and what I've got is I've got a series of those slides ready to flick to, whichever way we voted. So to rest your eyes, this is going to be really nice. And relief from glare of the screen. So I want you to shut your eyes and hold them closed for 3 seconds. And then open them for 3. And then close them for 3. And then open again. All right, so the slide suggests we do that 5 times, but we might just leave it for that. Another really good tip for stretching and exercising your eyes is to look away and focus further away than just your screen. So that's a really helpful tip. Fantastic. But that was a way to vote and engage in something. That could be a whole host of different things that you have ready. So we could have done the hula hoop, and we've done the backward stretch. Okay. The other thing was about when to engage the voice. And I've already mentioned really that I have the control as a host to actually turn off. So I actually open up the participants list and I can turn on and off, so I can open up. When to engage them, it's a really good idea particularly if you're with a new group. It may be, if you've got a big audience, that it's possibly best not to engage with voice and encourage people to type in the text so you can manage it. If you've got two hosts, that's really the ideal of a session. If you can partner with someone, is to actually have someone manage the text, and because that voice can be really tricky having when you're trying to present and also manage the other side of things. So that's the ideal. It's not always the reality, but you might be able to find out a partner in crime that you can work with. And so that's handy. You can both learn from each other and support each other. So it depends on what, collaboration's a really handy tool. In terms of voice, you can have it that it's not on. Some of the issues with voice is that you can have too many people speaking at once. So you can mute all and unmute. I've got a button, I can just do everyone. But also you could have people that we can't hear. So they're really scratchy. Or, heaven forbid, we had the example of a wonderful teacher, a friend of mine, who was teaching online, and one of her participants had sleep apnea. So she started snoring through the session. And Dot is the most engaging presenter I've ever met. But it still didn't engage this poor lady because she fell asleep. She was suffering from sleep apnea, and that's a real struggle. So they ended up, so if you can mute, so some places have control of that or not. So that's very handy to be able to mute. Or it could be just that their sound's not good, or they're speaking out of turn. It's crowd control, isn't it? So that's a possibility. But really handy. I used to have a list of the participants and would make sure that I knew who had their microphone and who didn't. Some people don't want to speak. They feel uncomfortable. Obviously, everyone here is comfortable with speaking. But so it's good to note if they've got their mic or not. And so I actually had a list of participants and would tick if they had their mic working, and would do it earlier on in the session. It depends on the style of the presentation. If you're just doing a one-off webinar, it's quite different. So you need to make some decisions there on which way you're going to do it. If we had everyone on together, we can get time delays. And that can be an issue too, speaking. So we've even had that today, a little bit of over-speaking, just because the delay, you weren't quite sure if someone had finished. But, I think it's fantastic. For myself, I learn by speaking and engaging in conversation. So if you're gagged, I've had courses that I go on, I am only the host will let me speak. And even in the text, I can't even communicate to the other participants. I find that really a difficult space for me in terms of learning. Right. Okay, so we covered, we're flipping through a bit. We've covered virtually everything. I'm going to leave the polls and questions and feedback. My question to you, though, as a quick question is, did you feel engaged today? You can answer whichever way you like.
Yes, I did.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for engaging, because to me that makes it so much better fun. So we've got absolutely in the response and yes, thanks for you. So it's from Pauline Camilla. Cool. So I do love being engaged. And coming up, Camilla's here. She's one of my co-presenters for an exciting event that we've got, Capture Your Creative. And we've got a whole weekend that's happening at just north of Coonabarabran at Pilliga Pottery or Barkala Farm, called Capture Your Creative. So that's exciting. We're going to be doing photography, singing, drumming, pottery, making soaps and natural nurturing products. We're going to have great food. We're even having Christmas in July, German style. So if you want to disconnect, because it's out of range of all mobile phones and internet, to reconnect to your creativity, there's lots of fun there. So that's on my website at vivianevans.com.au, and you'll see a Capture Your Creative as a link. If you would like to come to something real, as opposed to, I love doing online, but there's nothing like being in person. So that's a really different event coming up. Next week, as I mentioned, free tools for polls and surveys to gain feedback from your team or audience. And Marie, you were saying right at the start, you could, ask what people wanted for, to learn about for communication. So these tools could be the way that you could do that. And that's why you're engaging your participants even before, so they're tapping into something that they're interested in. Unfortunately, on the 17th of May, I've got a double dip of commitments right on that day. So I can't do the 17th of May. I've got some real things happening for various other roles that I've got. So it's a bit of a shame we're disjointed. I've had a few weeks off and now we're doing it again. But we'll come up with some more. I've got some lined up, some guest presenters, and we're just locking in the dates and times and some other topics too. So I would love to find out if you're interested in any particular topics in relation to facilitating. That would be great. So I might even do that as a question for next week. I did have it prepared for today, but we'll look at another time. Okay, yes, you can always listen to the recording. So if you go to vivianevans.com.au, check out the under live events, there's a drop-down menu and there's recordings and podcasts. So every event. And today is the 30th Live at Lunch. Wow, yeah, I only worked that out this morning just before, so that's quite amazing. So now, Camilla, yes, you're going to do some sessions on singing. Do you want to grab the mic and tell us what that's about? Or you're still playing?
Yes, why not? Let's just throw myself right in there. So as Marie, were you asking? Here I am trying to manage two things at once. But just asking about what I do and what I do online. So I'm in the process of getting up online. I'm part of the Rural Women website, and I have 2 products there. But I think the best way to start with me, because I'm also starting out with this online world, is Viv's asked me to do a session, a live at lunch session, singing session. So I'm going to lock that in, Viv, with you. Yep. And start with that. And then, of course, Capture Your Creative that weekend at the end of July. So, yeah, I'm in the process of starting to do all my online things and working through my own personal barriers of tech, especially with singing. Because I know both Pauline and Marie were saying that they sometimes have connection issues. So, good. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's, Viv, what I need to focus on too, is changing my style and activities to suit the online session so everybody gets something out of it, whether they're listening or watching or replays or whatever.
Yes, that's it.
So it's going to be a wonderful journey.
It will definitely be, and it's all a learning curve, and I don't think we should be afraid to try. Get a bit messy, check it out and see what's going to work. And there will be things that will work and won't. And so it's about adapting, as we said, Marie's example of, using something in small groups, how can we adapt it to be? And it may be that we go, well, this won't quite work. It's been almost like a holy grail journey in terms of trying to find a really good webinar platform, and they all really vary, and they vary in price, they vary in what their capacities are. So I think it's a good space if we share and experiment and get feedback. So I did mention to you before, Camilla, how we've had Christmas carols online that a group of mine worked on as a project, and everyone was singing out of sync, and it was so funny, so that was good too anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I'm also a bit of a control freak. So when I have my lessons, or I conduct a choir, or I run a theatre workshop, I'm there in the room and I can engage with people. I can see what they're responding to, so I can engage like that. This is a totally different medium for me because I'm not getting that instant feedback. So I think that's where I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone with the tech, and then also presenting. But it's taken me a good 2 years or so to feel comfortable with sharing online. I found that I used to not share on Facebook because I didn't like people seeing what I was saying. But now I'm realizing if I can choose my right networks, and it's just practice and getting used to, because I was saying, Marie, about afraid of doing a webinar, I'm totally the same, because it's different than than being live and in the room with the person. But I just think there are so many benefits being able to touch people and connect with people that aren't necessarily in your town or in your region.
Absolutely.
And tech's only going to get better. It's got to get better. So it's either I get on the wagon or I'm left. You know?
And it's absolutely come incredibly a long way. I've been on that journey for a long time, and it's just amazing the difference of what can be done, and that we can connect, you know, like we are right now, from really broad, and we're all across New South Wales. So we've got Dubbo, Southern Highlands, Young, and Coonabarabran, but it can be the whole world. And in fact, I was taught from a teacher in Canada and in America with students from the Caribbean about how to facilitate virtual rooms. So you just work out what your capacities are, learn, experiment, and, you know, we're in it. Live at Lunch is a really supportive environment. So yeah, it's a great way to do it. So I'm looking forward to that. And look, Marie, fantastic, would love to do a communication session for Live at Lunch. So if you want to lock in a Thursday with me, that would be cool. And because that would be great. We definitely need all help on communication. Woohoo. Okay.
Thank you. I've learned to, because of you, Viv, I can manage my Google Calendar. That was one of the first ones I did, and it was fantastic. I'm not very tech oriented at all. So thank you.
That's fantastic. What a great spin-off. Cool. That's excellent. So fantastic. Let's we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining and engaging. It's been a lot of fun. And next week we'll have the potential for doing about polls, and which you could do even in a live audience. There's a cool tool Pauline and I have seen happen. I think you have, Pauline, where we've had you can put it up on the screen, the people's results, and people vote by phone. So there's a whole lot of tools. Yeah. And it does a word cloud. Ooh, that excites me when I see things like that. All right, so that'll be next week, a bit of a mix of tools that we'll explore. Okay, fantastic.
Thank you so much, Viv. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
Lovely to chat, Pauline and Marie.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Keep in touch.